Let me ask you a question. What if the most dangerous man in the world is not the richest, not the strongest, not the loudest, but the man who cannot be controlled, because he controls himself? Every system survives on one thing: your desire, your hunger to be seen, your need to be loved, your addiction to pleasure, your fear of missing out. And the moment a man learns how to master his desire, he slips through the fingers of every system that tries to own him. Epictetus understood this over 2,000 years ago. Freud discovered it in a darker, modern way, and both arrived at the same terrifying truth. A man who does not obey his impulses cannot be enslaved. Part 1, Epictetus. Freedom is not what you think. Epictetus was born a slave. Let that sink in for a moment. A man with no legal freedom, no possessions, no status, no voice in the world, yet he became one of the most powerful thinkers in human history because he understood a truth that most of us will never face. No man is free who is not master of himself. Think about it. Freedom is not money. It is not power. It is not titles. Freedom is internal. It is the ability to walk through the chaos of the world without being swept away by it. Epictetus realized that every person is controlled, subtly, invisibly, by their desires. The desire for approval, the desire for comfort, the desire for safety, the desire to be loved. And here is the cruel irony. The more you crave these things, the more someone or something can control you. A man who needs constant praise is owned by opinion. A man who cannot bear discomfort is owned by circumstance. A man who chases pleasure at every opportunity is owned by temptation itself. The Stoics, including Epictetus, knew what modern society desperately tries to hide. The easiest way to control a man is to keep him craving. And that craving is everywhere. It hides in your phone. It hides in your news feed. It hides in the culture, in the people around you. It whispers, "You are not enough. Not yet. You need this. You need that." Epictetus didn't just reject slavery of the body. He rejected the slavery of the mind. He said, essentially, you can lock a man's body, but you cannot lock his mind. You can take his possessions, but you cannot take his reason. You can try to control him with fear, but you cannot control a man who understands himself. And here is the lesson. A man who controls his desires cannot be ruled. He may live in poverty, but he is richer than kings. He may live in chains, but he is freer than emperors, because he is not pulled this way or that by every impulse. He decides, he chooses, he acts, or does not act according to his own judgment. This is not weakness. This is not denial of pleasure. This is sovereignty. And make no mistake, sovereignty is dangerous. It terrifies systems, societies, and people who profit from our cravings. It terrifies because a man who does not crave cannot be bought, cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled. Epictetus teaches us that mastery over desire is the beginning of all power. It is quiet. It is invisible. It is profound. And once you understand it, you begin to see the chains around the rest of the world. You see the subtle ways people are controlled by what they cannot resist. And you realize that freedom is not about escaping the world. It is about mastering yourself within it. This is the first step to becoming the kind of man that every system fears. Part 2, Freud, Desire as a Weapon. If Epictetus gave us the key to freedom through mastery of self, Freud showed us the battlefield on which that freedom is constantly tested. Freud looked at humanity and said something shocking. We are not as rational as we think we are. We are creatures driven by desire, deep, hidden, sometimes unconscious desire. Every thought, every choice, every impulse often stems not from logic, not from reason, but from cravings buried deep inside us. Pleasure, avoidance of pain, power, recognition, sex, comfort, escape. These are not just parts of human life. They are weapons against us, because desire, left unchecked, makes us predictable. Think about it. If someone knows what makes you excited, what makes you anxious, what soothes your fear, and what you cannot resist, they can control you without chains, without threats, without even raising their voice. Modern systems, political, economic, social, do not need to imprison you. They entertain you. They distract you. They manipulate your cravings. They feed you exactly what you want, and in return, you march willingly. Freud's insight is brutally simple. The man who cannot master his desires is enslaved by them. And here's the irony. Most of us think we are free. We make our own choices. We follow our passions. We pursue our goals. But our choices are often shaped by the very desires that control us, by forces we barely notice, forces we barely question. Advertising knows this. Social media knows this. Even the culture around us knows this. They do not coerce us with violence. They seduce us with desire. They pull on the strings that we think are ours. And here's the crucial point. A man who knows his desires and controls them is completely unpredictable. He is dangerous because he cannot be bought. He cannot be manipulated. He cannot be distracted. He does not act on every impulse. Freud warned us, most people are puppets of their unconscious impulses. But the rare man, the man who has studied himself, the man who has disciplined his cravings, becomes a force that no system, no social order, no agenda can bend. Imagine a man who sees the temptation of money, power, pleasure, approval, and fear, and simply steps aside. Imagine a man who feels desire, acknowledges it, but does not react instantly, does not chase blindly, does not surrender. That man becomes untouchable. And here is the frightening truth. Systems fear him, not because he is loud, not because he has armies or wealth, but because he is invisible to their control. He moves freely in a world that tries to trap everyone else. He decides when and where to act. He refuses to react on cue. He becomes the anomaly, the glitch, the unpredictable variable. Epictetus gave him inner freedom. Freud showed why that freedom terrifies the world, because every system survives on desire, and the man who controls it is the one thing that cannot be controlled. And when you begin to understand this, when you begin to see how desire shapes the world and how mastering it shapes you, you start to realize you are standing at the edge of a kind of power most men will never know. Part 3, Why Systems Fear the Disciplined Man. Now, let's talk about why the man who masters his desires is not just rare, but feared. Every system, political, economic, social, even cultural, depends on predictability. It thrives when people are guided by impulses, when desires drive decisions, when fear, greed, and craving determine action. Advertising thrives on your cravings. Politics thrives on your fears. Social networks thrive on your need for approval. And the moment a man learns to control his desires, he becomes the glitch in the system. He refuses to react instantly to every call for attention. He does not chase every temptation. He does not surrender to fear or greed. He pauses. He evaluates. He chooses. And this pause, this act of self-mastery, is dangerous because systems are built for speed, instant gratification, instant anger, instant compliance. The disciplined man slows the machine. He does not binge. He does not panic. He does not overreact. Imagine a man offered a promotion he does not need. Most men will chase it blindly. The disciplined man pauses. He weighs the consequences. He says no if it does not align with his values. A man tempted by fleeting pleasures, money, fame, approval, most will surrender immediately. The disciplined man feels the desire, acknowledges it, and refuses to hand over his sovereignty. A man confronted with fear or threat, most will panic, most will comply. The disciplined man sees the fear, understands it, and steps forward anyway. And this is why systems fear him, because a man who controls his desires cannot be coerced. He cannot be distracted. He cannot be bought. He cannot be guided by manipulation. And here is the cruel, subtle truth. Most people think they are free. They think choice is freedom. But freedom is meaningless if it is guided by cravings. Systems thrive on craving. They study it, manipulate it, exploit it. But the disciplined man withdraws his obedience. He refuses to participate in the predictable game. He refuses to react the way they expect. And suddenly, he is uncontainable. Imagine a culture built on consumption, a society built on distraction, a machine built on human craving. Now imagine a man walking through it unshaken, untempted, and unbound. He cannot be predicted. He cannot be owned. He cannot be silenced. This is why they fear him. Because control over desire is the invisible power that breaks chains. It is the quiet rebellion that no army can stop. It is the freedom that no law can take away. And it is not just theory. It is happening around you every day. Look at anyone who refuses to chase every trend. Anyone who steps back while others run forward blindly. Anyone who does not surrender to the constant pull of craving. That person is already a threat to the system, because discipline, true mastery over desire, is not just a personal victory. It is a challenge to the very way the world operates, and that is why, deep down, systems fear the disciplined man.
Part 4. The man who is feared now. Let's take this one step further. Why is the man who controls his desires truly feared? It's not because he is violent. It's not because he has armies or wealth. It's because he is unpredictable. Think about it. Every system depends on predictability. It depends on knowing what will move you, what will excite you, what will distract you. When a man acts on every impulse, every craving, every fear, he becomes a machine the system can operate. They push the right buttons. He reacts. They manipulate the environment. He obeys. But the man who has mastered himself, he does not react automatically. He does not chase every lure. He does not succumb to fear, anger, or temptation. He pauses, he observes, he chooses. And that pause is dangerous, because control thrives on action. Manipulation thrives on impulse. Predictability thrives on reaction. The disciplined man disrupts all of it. He cannot be bribed with pleasure. He cannot be threatened with loss. He cannot be distracted from his purpose. Epictetus would say, if you want to be invincible, make sure no external thing has power over your inner state. Freud would warn, the man who does not know his impulses is ruled by them. The man who knows them and masters them becomes a force beyond predictability. The man who masters his desires becomes untouchable. Consider the world today. The average person reacts to every notification, chases every fleeting desire, gets lost in every distraction. The man who does not, who feels the pull, acknowledges it, but does not surrender. He becomes terrifying to those who profit from human craving. He walks through the world unclaimed, uncontrolled, sovereign. He cannot be sold. He cannot be guided. He cannot be caged. And that is why systems fear him. Because systems are built on obedience, predictability, and craving. They survive on our impulses. They collapse when a man refuses to obey them. The disciplined man is quiet. He is calm. He does not shout. He does not protest. But his very existence is subversive. His very presence is a challenge. His very control over himself shakes the foundations of every system that expects him to conform. This is not power in the way most people think. It is power in its purest, most terrifying form, the power to be free, the power to act deliberately, the power to refuse to be owned. And once a man reaches this level, once he masters his desires, he becomes the anomaly the system fears, because there is nothing they can do to him, nothing they can take, nothing they can manipulate. He is untouchable, unpredictable, feared. And that, my friends, is the beginning of true freedom. Part 5. The Modern Illusion of Freedom. Today we are told you are free because you can choose. But choose what? What to consume, what to desire, what to crave next. That is not freedom. That is managed appetite. True freedom is not the ability to indulge. It is the ability to say no without suffering. And very few men can, which is why very few men are truly free. Part 6. The Inner Revolution. Controlling desire doesn't mean killing it. It means refusing to be dragged by it. You feel hunger, but you don't panic. You feel attraction, but you don't lose yourself. You feel ambition, but you don't sell your soul for it. This is not repression. This is sovereignty. And sovereignty is the one thing no system can tolerate in large numbers. The man who controls his desires doesn't protest, he doesn't shout, he doesn't beg for attention. He simply withdraws his obedience. And that is the most radical act of all. Epictetus would smile, Freud would nod, and the system would feel uneasy, because a man who masters himself cannot be owned, and a man who cannot be owned is feared by every system that depends on control. That is the man you were meant to become.